Don't you dare look at me with those lying eyes, you worthless piece of trash. Judge Harold Whitman's voice drips with venom as Maya Johnson simply tries to meet his gaze. His face contorts with disgust. You think you can waltz into my courtroom wearing that pathetic costume and fool anyone? I see right through you. He pounds his gavel like a weapon. I hereby accuse you of theft, Miss Johnson. $3,000. Just another ghetto rat who couldn't keep her dirty hands off honest people's money. The courtroom falls into a stunned silence, the kind that chills bone and breathes fire at the same time. Even the court clerk stops typing mid-sentence. A few jurors exchange uneasy glances, unsure whether they're witnessing justice or something far darker. But Maya doesn't flinch, not at the slur, not at the accusation, and not at the way Judge Whitman towers over her as though she's already been convicted. Her posture remains still, her hands folded neatly atop an aged leather briefcase that looks far too expensive for the simple office job she's supposed to have. Her court-appointed attorney, a man who looks younger than her by at least 10 years, tries to rise, but nerves pin him to the chair. Your Honor, if we could at least review the... Whitman snaps. Sit. Down. His voice cracks through the courtroom like a whip. I won't be lectured by a child who's barely passed the bar. Maya's attorney sinks, defeated. Judge Whitman's eyes slide back to Maya with a kind of venom that carries years of habit, not a moment of anger. People like you come in here thinking you're smarter than the rest of us, thinking your little tricks and fake politeness can hide what's underneath. Maya slowly lifts her gaze. Her eyes are calm, too calm, like she's watching a predictable scene unfold rather than standing trial for a felony. A quiet buzz rattles the inside of her blazer pocket. She doesn't check it. She doesn't even blink, but she knows exactly who it is and exactly why they're calling. Whitman leans back, smug satisfaction spreading across his face like oil. We're going to get to the bottom of this theft. I don't care what mask you put on. I don't care what story you spin. Maya's fingers tap once on her briefcase. A rhythm, a signal, or maybe a countdown only she understands, because beneath the calm expression and steady gaze, she's hiding something far more explosive than a simple plea of innocence, something she didn't come to court to defend, but to reveal. Why does Maya look so confident while being humiliated in open court? And who keeps calling her during the trial? The truth begins to surface. The courtroom hums with a low, uneasy tension. Judge Whitman flips through a stack of papers with performative irritation, each turn of the page louder than necessary, as though noise alone can prove authority. Maya sits still, not timid, not shaken, just watching him, watching the room, watching everything. Her phone buzzes again against her hip, short, controlled, no ringtone. The pattern buzz, pause, buzz isn't a coincidence. She already knows the message will read exactly 3 words. Standing by, confirm, but she doesn't reach for the phone. Not yet. Whitman slams another document onto the bench. Here, he announces loudly, is the official evidence packet from Pinnacle Financial. Screenshots, timestamps, security logs, everything that proves Ms. Johnson is guilty beyond question. The prosecutor rises halfway, clearing her throat softly. Your Honor, if I may, procedurally, you may not. He doesn't even glance at her. Instead, he glares at Maya, as if she personally ruined his day, his career, and his breakfast. Criminals don't deserve procedural accommodations. A ripple of discomfort moves through the jury box. Even the prosecutor sits back down, lips tightening. Maya's attorney leans toward her and whispers, barely audible, I'm so sorry. I can request a recess. Maybe file a mistrial argument. Maya does something unexpected. She smiles. A soft, almost reassuring smile that makes the young attorney blink in confusion. It's fine, she murmurs. Just keep observing. Observing? That's all she's been doing since she walked in. She hasn't defended herself, hasn't argued, hasn't objected. She hasn't even looked concerned. Whitman mistakes her silence for fear. A mistake that will cost him dearly. Now then, he says smugly. As I was explaining before I was interrupted by unnecessary noise, his glare flicks to her attorney. Let's review the defendant's pattern of behavior. He clicks a remote. A grainy photo flashes onto the screen. A figure vaguely resembling Maya near a secure area. "This is her," Whitman declares triumphantly. "Right outside the safe! Look how nervous she is. Hands fidgeting, eyes shifting. Classic signs of guilt." Maya gently tilts her head. "Your Honor," she says quietly, "may I request to examine the metadata?" "No." The answer is instantaneous, sharp and loud. "You speak when I allow you to speak." The prosecutor stiffens again. This is not standard judicial conduct. Even she knows that. But Maya doesn't push. She doesn't argue. She simply writes something down in her notebook with her gold-trimmed pen. The court reporter glances over, curious, because from her seat she can clearly see what Maya is writing. "Behavioral deviation confirmed. Documenting pattern escalation. Stage 2 nearly triggered." None of that is the language of a frightened defendant. It's the language of someone tracking something, measuring it, waiting for the moment it crosses a line, and the judge is sprinting toward that line with reckless acceleration. What exactly is Maya documenting, and why does she seem relieved, almost satisfied, by the judge's misconduct? The truth begins to crack open. Judge Whitman leans back in his chair, satisfied with his own narrative. To him, he's already wrapped the case with a neat little bow. Guilty defendant, undeniable evidence, and an audience who should be grateful to witness his brand of justice. But the courtroom doesn't reflect confidence. It reflects confusion. Juror number 6, an older man with a deep furrow between his brows, keeps glancing from the screen to Maya, as though trying to reconcile the grainy footage with the calm, poised woman before him. The court clerk swallows hard every time the judge raises his voice. Even the prosecutor, usually meticulous and composed, now looks like someone stuck in a malfunctioning elevator, trapped and profoundly uncomfortable. Maya finally lifts her pen and turns to a fresh page, writing a single line at the top. Subject demonstrates unrestrained bias, threshold crossed. To anyone else, it looks like notes for her defense. But her attorney is beginning to suspect otherwise. He whispers, "Why are you writing like you're observing him?" She doesn't answer. Instead, she watches as Whitman clicks to the next slide, a zoomed-in shot attempting to show her entering the restricted area. "There," he barks. At exactly 12:35 p.m., the defendant touching the combination lock. Maya exhales softly. She almost seems disappointed, like she expected more of him. "Your Honor," the prosecutor says, rising once again, her professionalism cracking at the seams. "The defense has the right to—" "Sit down," he snaps, voice rising an octave. "We're not turning this into circus theatrics. I run this court." No one breathes, no one moves, except Maya. She sits forward, finally showing interest. Her voice is quiet, respectful, almost too calm. "With respect, Your Honor, could you clarify whether the court obtained authentication documents for this footage under evidence rule?" "I said no questions." His voice roars over hers. Maya stops speaking, not because she was shut down, but because she got what she needed. She checks her phone. A new message lights up the screen. "Behavior confirmed. Continue." She puts the phone down, face down, the message hidden. Whitman stands, pacing with an inflated sense of authority. "You see, ladies and gentlemen," he announces, "I don't need some fancy specialist or federal nonsense. I know guilt when I see it, and this woman oozes deception." Maya writes something else in her notebook. "Bias escalated to actionable category." Her attorney stares at the words, speechless. "I need to ask," he whispers, "what exactly are you doing?" Maya leans slightly toward him, her voice too low for anyone else to hear. "Something that's been in motion long before today." The attorney's eyes widen, but Maya returns her attention to the judge, who is now sweating lightly, though he doesn't yet realize why. Because Maya isn't reacting like a terrified defendant, she's reacting like someone waiting for a trap to spring. And Judge Whitman is walking directly into it. Why does Maya seem to expect the judge's misconduct? And why is her phone receiving operational messages? The truth will begin to surface. Judge Whitman returns to his elevated seat with the swagger of a man who believes he has already won. The gavel rests beneath his palm like a personal weapon. He scans the room, waiting for someone, anyone to challenge him so he can crush them again. No one speaks. Not the prosecutor, not the jury, not even Maya's trembling attorney. But Maya. She finally closes her notebook. That small movement alone draws the eye of nearly everyone in the courtroom. Her composure is unnervingly steady. Even the federal-style briefcase, too professional for her supposed job, sits angled perfectly on the table, untouched since she walked in. Whitman notices. His eyebrows tighten. "What's that look for?" he demands. "You look like you've got something to say." The entire room stiffens. Even the air seems to pause. Maya doesn't speak. Instead, she lifts her gaze with a measured calm that feels rehearsed, planned, controlled. "Your Honor," her attorney interrupts in panic, "my client simply wishes to—" Whitman slams the gavel. "Your client wishes nothing unless I tell her she can. That's how this works." Maya makes no reaction, but the prosecutor's pen slips from her hand. A young marshal steps into the back of the courtroom, casual but observant. He nods toward Maya, barely noticeable, but she doesn't return the gesture. Instead, she gives an almost imperceptible tap on her briefcase. A single tap. The marshal straightens slightly. "Whatever is happening, it's far larger than this theft case." Whitman returns to the projector screen, clicking to yet another piece of evidence. "Here is a text message log recovered from her employer's network," he announces triumphantly. "This shows the defendant communicating about missing funds the day before they disappeared." Maya leans in just enough to see the screen. The message displayed is a blurry screenshot. Numbers mismatched, timestamp font inconsistent, metadata fields uneven, badly fabricated, not amateur bad, sloppy bad, careless bad. She writes 2 new lines in her notebook. "Evidence, integrity compromised. Proceeding as expected." The court clerk notices and swallows hard. Whitman clears his throat. "Well, Miss Johnson, nothing to say now?" Maya finally speaks, voice steady as stone. "I'm just surprised, Your Honor." "Surprised?" he sneers. "By what?" She closes her notebook gently. "That you're still presenting evidence without verifying its origin." A murmur rises from the gallery. The prosecutor's face drains of color. Whitman bristles. "You don't get to question my procedures!" Maya tilts her head. "No," she says, "but others will." The judge freezes, something in her tone, something in her certainty, something that feels less like a warning and more like a countdown. Whitman tries to speak but stumbles over the words. "Wow, what is that supposed to mean?" Maya folds her hands atop the briefcase. Her poise is unbreakable. "It means," she replies softly, "that this proceeding is no longer just about me." The marshal in the back steps closer, quiet, waiting, ready. And for the first time, the judge's confidence flickers. Why is a marshal reacting to Maya's signals? And why does Maya speak like someone who already knows the trial's outcome? The reveal deepens, next will shock everyone. A strange stillness settles over the courtroom, subtle but unmistakable. It's the kind of quiet that comes before a storm, the kind that makes every hair on the back of the neck lift. Judge Whitman senses it too, though he can't understand why. His authority feels thinner, less solid than before. As though the room itself is no longer convinced he's the one in charge. He clears his throat and forces a smirk. "Let's continue," he snaps, gathering the papers in front of him. "This defendant seems unusually bold today. Maybe she thinks confidence is a substitute for innocence." Maya doesn't react. She simply folds her hands atop her briefcase, eyes steady on him like she's reading a badly predictable script. The young marshal shifts again, closer now, not intervening, not interfering, but unmistakably positioned. The prosecutor finally speaks up. Her voice trembles with the kind of carefulness that only comes from sensing danger. "Your Honor, perhaps we should proceed with standard procedure regarding evidence authenticity." Whitman glares at her like she's betrayed him. "Are you questioning my judgment? In my courtroom?" She withdraws, palms flat against the table. "Of course not, Your Honor." But she is. Everyone can see it. Everyone except Whitman himself. Maya watches the exchange like she's been expecting it. She opens her notebook again and writes, "External discomfort rising. Procedural integrity collapsing." Her attorney leans in again, voice barely above a whisper. "Maya, I need you to tell me what's going on. This isn't a normal trial. The marshal keeps watching you. You're writing like an investigator." She turns to him, her expression calm enough to be unsettling. "I told you earlier," she whispers. "Everything happening here was anticipated." "Anticipated?" he echoes. "You make it sound like you knew this was coming." Maya closes the notebook. "I did." Before he can respond, Whitman waves a hand dramatically. "Moving on, let's examine character evidence. According to her employment files, this defendant has a history of instability, job hopping, conflicts with supervisors, typical behavior of someone who can't follow rules." The prosecutor flinches. Maya lifts an eyebrow. "Your Honor, that's not accurate. My employment record is—" Silence. He cuts her off with a sharp slap of the gavel. "I decide what's relevant." But the gavel's crack doesn't echo the way it usually does. The room's energy absorbs it instead of obeying it. He tries again, louder. Still nothing, because the power he thinks he has is slipping. The court clerk shifts uneasily, hands shaking slightly as she resumes typing. But her eyes keep drifting to Maya's briefcase, like she's wondering what exactly is inside. Maya doesn't hide it, doesn't guard it, doesn't treat it like evidence or personal belongings. She treats it like an instrument waiting for the perfect moment to play. Whitman leans forward, gripping his bench like a throne he's afraid of losing. "Miss Johnson," he spits, "if you think anyone in this room believes your little act, you're mistaken." Maya meets his eyes. "I'm not acting, Your Honor." And for a moment, just a flicker, Whitman looks genuinely unsure of himself. What exactly is in Maya's briefcase, and why is she so calm as the judge unravels? The next layer of her secret finally begins to peel back. The briefcase sits beside Maya's elbow like a silent witness, its polished leather untouched, its brass clasps gleaming with quiet purpose. To everyone else, it looks expensive. To the marshal in the back, it looks familiar. Very familiar. He shifts his stance again, eyes narrowing. That exact model, federal issue, restricted distribution, should not be in the hands of a defendant accused of stealing $3,000. Unless she isn't who she claims to be. Whitman, oblivious to the tension building around him, continues his performance. Let's review the psychological evaluation from her workplace. It states, "That evaluation was falsified," Maya says simply. The judge's head snaps up like he's been slapped. "What did you just say?" Maya doesn't blink. "I said the report was falsified. It doesn't match my real record. Or the time-stamping protocols used by Pinnacle's HR department." A couple of jurors lean forward. This is the first time she's openly challenged anything. Whitman rises, pointing a trembling finger at her. "You are not in a position to declare what is or isn't falsified. I make that determination." "You haven't examined it," she replies calmly. "I don't need to," he roars. The marshal stops pretending to be casual. He steps fully into the courtroom aisle now, position firm, attention razor sharp. Maya sees him move. She taps her briefcase again. 2 soft taps. "It's interesting," she says, tone smooth as glass. "You've denied every request for verification, every attempt to authenticate evidence. You've cut off both legal teams at every point of contradiction." Whitman slams the gavel again, but the echo falls flat, more than flat, ignored. "Enough!" Still, no one responds to the outburst, not even the prosecutor. She finally rises, voice trembling with caution. "Your Honor, I strongly advise that we pause for legal review. There are irregularities occurring, procedural ones." Whitman's face purples. "Sit down before you find yourself held in contempt." But this time, she doesn't sit. She freezes, unsure, glancing toward Maya, as though the woman on trial somehow has answers she doesn't. Maya opens the briefcase. Finally. A single, collective gasp breaks through the room. Inside isn't paperwork, or a wallet, or anything personal. Inside is a sleek, encrypted federal device, black, steel, unmistakable. Even from a distance, the emblem stamped into the casing reveals everything. The judge stumbles back a step, grip tightening on the bench. Where did you get that? He stammers. Maya tilts the device so only he can see the clearance level. Where do you think? She answers softly. Whitman's face goes cold. The marshal stops pretending entirely. His hand is now resting near his radio. Maya snaps the briefcase shut, not in defiance, in declaration. And suddenly the judge isn't the hunter anymore. He's prey. He just hasn't processed that truth yet. And as the courtroom struggles to understand what they just witnessed, even more shocking is what Maya plans to reveal next. Something that will turn the entire trial upside down. Judge Whitman's bravado collapses faster than anyone expected. For the first time since the hearing began, he isn't shouting, sneering, or condescending. He's staring. Staring at that sealed federal device Maya revealed, the kind of equipment only high-clearance personnel can legally carry. His voice cracks. Miss Johnson, what exactly is this supposed to be? Maya doesn't answer immediately. She studies him, expression unreadable, like she's cataloguing every twitch in his face. She has been doing that all morning, though no one realized it until now. I'll address that shortly, she says finally, after you finish presenting the rest of your evidence. Whitman stiffens. Don't give me orders. I am the authority here. But even he hears it. His voice no longer carries authority. It carries fear. The prosecutor shifts in her seat, visibly shaken. She knows that device too, and she knows it doesn't belong to ordinary citizens. Maya closes the briefcase without rushing. The latch clicks shut with a neat metallic snap, the kind that sounds like the end of something. Whitman forces himself to gather the next stack of papers. His hands tremble so badly the pages fan out. Very well, he mutters. Let's move on. His tone is different, weak, uncertain, like he suddenly became aware that someone is watching him from a far higher place. He clears his throat and tries to regain his theatrics. This is the final set of logs, proof that the defendant accessed financial accounts. No, Maya interrupts. Dead quiet. Everyone looks at her. Judge Whitman's eyes widen. Did you just interrupt me? Yes, she says, no apology, no fear. And I'll do it again if you continue to present fabricated record sets. A loud murmur ripples through the gallery. Even the bailiff turns toward her fully now. Fabricated? Whitman repeats, voice shaking. That's a serious accusation. Correct, Maya replies. And I don't make accusations unless I've already verified them. She lifts her pen again. Scratch, scratch. 2 deliberate lines in her notebook. Phase 3 initiated. A subject demonstrating stress responses consistent with concealed guilt. Whitman sees the words. His jaw locks. What are you writing? He demands. Maya sets the pen down gently. Notes complete. I'm documenting your behavior for an ongoing federal review, she says quietly. The room explodes with whispers. Whitman pales. You can't do that! You have no authority to… Maya looks at him. Not with anger, not with fear, with finality. Your Honor, she says, voice low but chillingly steady. I haven't been here as a defendant. I've been here as an observer. The marshal steps even closer, radio now fully unclipped at his side. The prosecutor covers her mouth. The jury looks like they've forgotten how to breathe. And Judge Whitman takes a single, unsteady step backward. What Maya means by observer and who sent her is about to shatter everything the judge thought he controlled. The courtroom feels smaller now, not physically, but in authority. Every inch of power Judge Whitman once wielded has shrunk to a thin thread, and everyone can see it. Maya sits perfectly still, hands folded, posture relaxed. Calm in a way no defendant has ever been. Calm in a way that unnerves even the walls. Her words echo in the silence. I've been here as an observer. The judge grasps the bench like he needs it to stay upright. Observer? He repeats, sweating. What kind of observer? For who? Maya doesn't answer immediately. She lets the question hang in the air, growing heavier and heavier, until even the jurors feel it pressing into their ribs. The young marshal finally steps forward, addressing the judge with quiet restraint. Your Honor, Perhaps we should recess. But Whitman waves him off with a frantic hand. No, no breaks, no recess. I won't let this court be hijacked by theatrics. He turns on Maya. You think you can intimidate me with that briefcase and vague threats? Well, you can't. You are still the accused here. You are still… Am I? Maya asks, voice steady. He falters. What do you mean, am I? Maya glances toward the clerk's station. Would you please read the defendant entry file? She asks calmly. The clerk freezes. She knows exactly what Maya is doing. And she knows exactly what she did that morning, because she received a sealed directive that she wasn't allowed to question. I can't, the clerk whispers. Whitman slams the gavel. You can and you will! The clerk swallows hard, fingers trembling as she opens her admin terminal. The screen glows bright in the dim courtroom. She scrolls, stops, stares. Her face goes white. Well, Whitman barks, read it out loud. She clears her throat, voice dry. It says the defendant file was locked by federal authority and marked as… Her eyes flick to Maya, unsure whether she should continue. Marked as what? Whitman explodes. The clerk forces the words out. It marked as special administrative oversight, non-defendant, do not alter. Gasps erupt. The prosecutor stands as though yanked upward by an invisible string. Non-defendant, she whispers. Then, who is she? Maya closes her eyes briefly, as though acknowledging the moment she knew would eventually arrive. When she opens them again, they're sharper, clearer, purposeful. I told you earlier, she says softly to her attorney. I wasn't here to defend myself. Whitman's eyes dart around the room. At the clerk, the marshal, the prosecutor, the jury, searching for someone to validate his version of reality. No one does. The marshal now stands beside the defense table, hand near his holster, but not touching it. Maya lifts her briefcase onto her lap. You were never conducting a trial, she tells the judge. You were participating in an evaluation. Whitman shakes his head violently. No, this is my courtroom. I preside. I decide. I judge. Not today, Maya interrupts. Not in this proceeding. The judge's breathing grows shallow. Fear has finally found him. And as the truth inches closer, the judge begins to understand. This wasn't a trial at all. It was a trap he walked into himself. Judge Whitman sinks into his chair as though the bench has suddenly grown taller, heavier, more demanding. He searches for the gavel, not to control the room but to steady his shaking hand. For the first time since taking the bench, he looks truly small. Maya rests her briefcase on the table, fingertips lightly touching the lid, as though it's simply part of her breathing. An evaluation, Whitman whispers. The word tastes foreign to him, terrifyingly foreign. Maya nods slowly. It began months ago. Of me? His voice cracks, high and thin. Yes, she answers. A ripple of shock moves through the courtroom. The prosecutor lowers herself back into her seat slowly, eyes glued to Maya. The jurors stare like they've been pulled into a story far bigger than a theft accusation. Whitman tries to gather himself. He straightens his robe, lifts his chin. No government agency would waste resources evaluating a sitting judge. That's absurd. Maya tilts her head gently. Is it? You've been flagged before. The judge's face drains of color. The prosecutor looks quickly toward him. Flagged, Your Honor. Is that true? Whitman slams the gavel out of panic. I don't have to answer that. These are lies, wild, fabricated lies. But the way he grips the gavel, knuckles white with pressure, betrays him. Maya opens her notebook again. This time, she turns it so the judge can see the page. Written in neat, firm handwriting. Behavioral review, stage 4, confirmation of prior flags. He reads the words and freezes. No, he mutters. No, this cannot be happening. The marshal steps closer, standing now between the judge and Maya, not to protect the judge, but to observe him more closely. Maya speaks calmly. Your conduct has been monitored for over 18 months. Complaints, appeals, reversals. A pattern of bias and procedural abuse. Several of your rulings triggered automated audits. Whitman shakes his head violently. That's nonsense. I am firm, not biased, strict, not abusive. This is my courtroom. Exactly, Maya replies softly. And that's why they sent someone. Sent who? He demands. Maya raises her eyes to him. The calmness in them is chilling. Me. The room collectively inhales. Her attorney's jaw drops. The prosecutor presses a hand to her chest. The jurors sit motionless, as if staring at a wildfire they can't escape. Whitman clutches the edge of the bench like he's caught in a storm. You're lying. You're not— The marshal cuts him off gently. Your Honor, I received advance notice of a federal oversight operative attending today's session. Whitman's mouth falls open. He stumbles a step back. Maya closes the notebook. You were never judging me, she says quietly. I was assessing you. The judge's breath turns ragged, and the courtroom suddenly feels as though it belongs to her. And as the walls close in around the panicking judge, Maya is just moments away from revealing the accusation far more serious than theft, the one aimed not at her, but at him. Judge Whitman grips the edge of his bench so tightly the wood creaks under his fingers. His face, once smug, commanding, dripping with disdain, now looks pale and stretched, as if the truth is draining the blood from his body. Maya doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her calmness is louder than any shout. You've been under review for a long time, she says. This hearing was designed to observe how far you'd go, whether the patterns noted in your previous cases were isolated or systemic. The judge lets out a strangled laugh. This is entrapment, a setup. You provoked me. Maya tilts her head slightly. Did I? He sputters. You came in here dressed to mislead. You carried yourself like someone you thought you could ridicule, she finishes. The prosecutor covers her mouth, shocked by how easily the truth lands. Whitman slams the gavel again. The sound is desperate, not authoritative. A drowning man splashing for the last bit of air. I won't be evaluated by some undercover clerk, he spits. Maya places one hand atop the briefcase. I'm not a clerk. If there was any lingering doubt in the room, it evaporates now. Whitman looks around wildly. You can't do this, he snaps at the marshal. Stop her! Remove her! This is my courtroom! The marshal doesn't move. Instead, he speaks with quiet professionalism. Sir, I've been instructed not to interfere with her duties. The words hit the judge like a hammer. Maya continues, I wasn't here to provoke you. I was here to document your behavior, and you provided everything needed. That's not true, Whitman barks. You sat there smirking, writing, baiting me. My reactions didn't create your misconduct, she replies evenly. They exposed it. The jury murmurs. Some shake their heads, looking betrayed. Others stare at the judge with disbelief that borders on disgust. Maya opens her notebook again and flips to a page near the back. I have enough documented evidence, she says, to initiate a formal misconduct charge. Whitman's knees seem to weaken. You're bluffing, he whispers. You're bluffing. You have nothing. Maya slides a single sheet from her briefcase. A sealed letter, marked Judicial Oversight, Immediate Action Notice. She places it gently on the defense table, tapping it once with her finger. One charge, she says, but not the one you accused me of. Whitman's breathing becomes ragged. What charge? He croaks. Maya stands. The room feels like it tilts slightly with her. She faces him fully for the first time. Judge Harold Whitman, she says, voice clear and cutting. You are under investigation for evidence tampering. The room explodes. Gasps, whispers, disbelief. Whitman's mouth falls open. No, you can't accuse me of— But Maya doesn't stop. And for discriminatory conduct, she pauses, and for obstruction of judicial integrity. Each word lands like a verdict. The judge collapses back into his chair, the weight of his own actions finally crushing him. But Maya isn't finished, because she's about to reveal the evidence that proves the judge's guilt, and it's something no one expected. Judge Whitman sits frozen, staring at Maya as if she's speaking a language only his guilt can understand. His hands tremble so violently he has to hide them beneath the bench. But nothing can hide what's happening now. Not from the jury, not from the clerk, not from the marshal, and certainly not from Maya. She places the sealed notice back into the briefcase and withdraws something else. A thin, digital tablet. Government-issued, encrypted, unmistakably official. The moment the prosecutor sees it, she exhales sharply. She knows what that device means. Whatever Maya is about to show, it's not speculation, it's not theory, it's evidence. Your Honor, Maya says calmly, you presented doctored footage today. You also introduced falsified text logs. I have the originals. You can't have those, Whitman stutters. Only the bank. The bank cooperated fully, she replies. And they weren't the only ones. A hush falls. You could hear nerves crackling in the air. Maya taps the screen. It lights up with a secure federal seal. Every eye in the courtroom follows her movements, drawn as if by gravity. On the morning after the funds went missing, she explains, the bank's internal audit team conducted a review. What they found did not implicate me. The judge swallows hard. You expect us to take your... Maya turns the screen toward the gallery. A high-resolution video plays, crystal clear, undeniable. It shows the restricted hallway in perfect detail, not the grainy clip the judge presented. Time, date, and audit signatures all intact. And the person entering the restricted area is not Maya. It's someone taller, broader, male. The room gasps. Maya taps again. A zoomed-in frame reveals the man's face clearly. The prosecutor gasps loudly. The court clerk covers her mouth. Because the man in the footage is Judge Harold Whitman. No, he whispers, stumbling backward as if struck. That's taken out of context. I was checking. Maya's voice slices cleanly through his excuses. You used your master access card at 12:35 p.m., the exact minute you claimed I opened the safe. He shakes his head frantically. You manipulated that video. It was pulled from the bank's off-site backup servers, Maya replies. Digitally authenticated, cryptographically sealed, unalterable. The marshal steps closer to the judge's bench, not aggressively, but with the unmistakable posture of someone preparing for the next step in a procedure. The judge tries one last time to stand tall. Even if this is true, you still stole... Maya shakes her head. I never accessed the financial systems, but someone else did. She taps the screen again. A new image appears, an IP log showing unauthorized attempts to transfer funds, all originating from the courthouse, from the judge's chambers, from his personal device. Gasps echo like thunder. The judge collapses onto his seat, his robe pools around him like a shadow finally catching up. I didn't... His voice is barely a whisper. Please, I can explain. But there is no explanation big enough to rewrite what the room just saw. And even as the judge begs for escape, Maya still hasn't revealed the final piece. The one that explains why she was sent here personally, and what he did long before today. Judge Whitman isn't sitting anymore. He's slumped, not like a judge. Like a man who just realized the walls he built to hide his actions were made of glass. Maya stands calmly, tablet still in hand, but she isn't looking at the screen now. She's looking at him, not with triumph, not with anger, with something far colder. Recognition. Your misconduct didn't begin with this case, she says quietly. It didn't begin this year, or even last year. The judge's breathing grows fast, shallow. No, he whispers. No, don't do this. She continues anyway. It began 16 years ago. The courtroom freezes. You could hear dust settling. Maya taps the tablet again. A new file loads, older, archived, stamped with a federal watermark and a classification tag. The prosecutor leans forward, eyes wide. She recognizes the type of document, an internal judicial incident report. The judge's voice breaks. You shouldn't have access to that. I have access to everything relevant to our assignment, Maya replies, and your name came up long before today. She reads aloud from the report. Case 18213B. A defendant denied legal counsel. Evidence rejected without review. A 4-minute deliberation resulting in an overturned ruling. The appeals court cited malicious disregard for procedure. She looks up. That was you. Whitman closes his eyes like he's trying to shut out the sound, but he can still hear it. Everyone can. Maya steps closer. You were warned. Twice. And you ignored both warnings. I changed, he blurts. I corrected. I reformed. Maya shakes her head gently. No, you hid. You adapted. You learned to conceal misconduct instead of confronting it. He grips the bench again, but now it looks like he's holding onto it to keep from collapsing entirely. The marshal finally speaks, quiet but firm. Sir, we can request a recess if you need. No, Whitman snaps, then corrects himself, voice cracking. No, I need to know. What else did they send you after? Maya doesn't hesitate. 5 cases, she says. 5 rulings, 5 families, 5 lives. All affected by your bias, all flagged during automated review. She sets the tablet down. And one more. His hands tighten around the edges of the bench. You're lying, he whispers. I never harmed anyone beyond procedure, beyond corrections. Maya's voice softens, not with sympathy, but with truth. You harmed someone personally. He looks up sharply, eyes wide. Terrified. No! He shakes his head. No, that file was sealed. That record was destroyed. That incident was never forgotten, she finishes. The courtroom holds its breath. It's why I was assigned this case, she says. Whitman's lips tremble. What are you talking about? Why you? Maya finally says the words she has held for years. Because I was one of the people affected by your first misconduct ruling. The silence turns electric. The prosecutor stumbles backward into her chair. The clerk nearly drops her keyboard. The judge? He looks like he's seen a ghost, wearing the face of his consequence. And as her past finally intersects with his corruption, Maya is about to reveal exactly what he did to her family. The piece that will finish him for good. The judge stares at Maya like he's looking at a face from a nightmare he prayed would stay buried. His fingers, gripping the bench, loosen slightly, then tighten again. He knows exactly what she's referring to. He knows because that memory never left him, no matter how deeply he tried to bury it. Maya steps forward, not aggressively, but with the unshakable certainty of someone reclaiming a moment stolen from her years ago. You remember the case, she says softly. 18 years ago. Minor defendant. Wrongfully accused. You rushed the trial. Denied the defense witnesses, ignored exculpatory evidence. The judge's voice is barely a breath. No! Don't say it! You sentenced him, Maya continues. A man with no record. A man who begged for the truth to be heard. Whitman lifts a trembling hand. I had insufficient information. You had the information. She cuts in. You rejected it. The room is silent. No one moves. No one even shifts their weight. The prosecutor looks like she might cry. The jurors sit frozen, hands clasped, eyes wide with disbelief and grief. Maya's voice lowers, steady, but weighted with memory. That defendant was my father. The impact is instant. A wave of shock ripples across the courtroom. The judge collapses back into his chair as though struck, shoulders shaking. No, he whispers. I didn't know. I didn't realize. You knew, Maya says. You overheard him ask for an attorney. You watched my mother plead with you. You saw me sitting in the second row, clutching my school backpack, terrified. The judge presses a trembling hand to his forehead. I made mistakes. I was young, inexperienced. You were prejudiced, Maya replies, and you let that bias destroy my family. Whitman's mouth opens, but nothing comes out. Maya continues, calm and controlled. My father lost his job. My family lost our home. And he never recovered. You didn't just mishandle paperwork, you dismantled lives. A tear streaks down the judge's face, but Maya doesn't look moved. Not because she lacks emotion, but because she's spent her entire adult life mastering it. You think this is revenge? The judge whispers. No, Maya answers immediately. If it were revenge, I would have exposed you years ago. This is accountability. This is what happens when justice refuses to hold itself accountable. The marshal steps even closer, sensing the moment tightening. The judge's voice breaks completely. "I'm sorry," he whispers. I didn't know who you were." Maya's eyes are cold and steady. "That's the problem," she replies. "You didn't care who we were." The courtroom sits in stunned silence, the past and present colliding in a single, devastating truth. And even as the judge crumbles under the weight of his past, Maya still has one final revelation: the official consequence he will face today, for everything he has done. Judge Harold Whitman doesn't look like a judge anymore. He doesn't look like a man in control, or even a man standing trial. He looks like someone watching the structure of his entire life collapse in slow motion, with every pillar cracking under the truth. Maya stands before him with the calm certainty of someone who has already survived the worst day of her life and refused to let it break her. She lifts the sealed document again, the one marked Judicial Oversight, Immediate Action Notice. "This," she says steadily, "is the official notice authorizing today's evaluation. Signed by the Federal Judicial Review Board, you were under investigation long before I stepped into this courtroom." The prosecutor exhales shakily, eyes wet. The clerk stops typing entirely, her fingers hovering above the keys. Jurors exchange stunned glances, realizing they were never assembled to decide her guilt. They were here to witness his. The judge tries to speak, voice quivering. "Please, I'm begging you, I never meant for your family to suffer. I was young. I was overwhelmed. My career was on the line." "And you sacrificed justice for it," Maya replies. "You told my father that men like him always ended up guilty anyway. I remember every word." He bows his head, ashamed, or defeated. "Or both," Maya continues. "Your rulings overturned lives, not just mine, not just my father's. You left a pattern of devastation everywhere you sat. The evaluation today was to determine whether you have changed." She pauses, lets the quiet settle. "You haven't." The marshal steps forward, posture formally shifting, shoulders squared, stance braced. It is no longer discreet. "Judge Harold Whitman," Maya reads directly from the notice, "you are hereby suspended from all judicial duties, effective immediately, pending formal review and criminal inquiry." Gasps erupt like a wave. The judge grips the edge of the bench, as if expecting the words to change if he holds on tightly enough. No, I can't. You can't just..." "The authority doesn't come from me," Maya says. "It comes from the Oversight Board. I was simply assigned to confirm what they suspected." The marshal nods once. The signal. 2 additional marshals enter the room from side doors. Not aggressively, procedurally, officially. It's happening. Whitman backs away in terror. No! I built my career for this. I gave everything for this courtroom." Maya's expression softens, not in forgiveness, but in truth. "You gave nothing," she says quietly. "You took everything." The marshals flank him. He doesn't resist. He can't. As he is escorted away, robe dragging, steps trembling, something in the courtroom shifts, like a weight lifting after years of pressure. Maya finally exhales, not in victory, in closure. Her attorney, still stunned, whispers, "What happens now?" Maya gathers her briefcase, snapping the latch shut. "Now," she says. "Now justice continues, the way it should have, all along." She turns and walks toward the exit, the courtroom parting instinctively, as if recognizing the person who truly held the authority all along. And with that, the trial that was never really a trial comes to an end. Not with a verdict against Maya, but with the downfall of a man who once believed he was untouchable. Because justice doesn't always come from the bench. Sometimes it walks quietly through the doors, carrying a briefcase and memories that will never be forgotten. If this story moved you, don't leave just yet. There's so much more where this came from. Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another powerful story. And if you want to keep the emotions flowing, click the video on your screen right now. Your next story is waiting.